Hello, thank you for joining us on the news. I'm Ruth Aguele. My sign language interpreter is Anna Olainka. Let's start with the headlines. President Tinubu approves the immediate implementation of 8 far-reaching actions to reinvigorate the administration's capacity, appoints 7 new ministers and discharges 5. Federal government gives 60 days ultimatum to its certificate of occupancy title owners to settle all outstanding ground rent and statutory. Plus, Germany's Disease Control Center detects new, more infectious variant of the Mpox virus. A major review has been carried out on some federal ministries with some realignments announced. The decisions were taken at the Federal Executive Council meeting held this Wednesday. We'll bring you the full package during the course of the bulletin. But let's inform you that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved the immediate implementation of 8 far-reaching actions to reinvigorate the administration's capacity for optimal efficiency, pursuant of his commitment to deliver on his promises to Nigerians. The 8 actions approved by Mr. President include the renaming of the Ministry of Niger Delta Development to the Ministry of Regional Development to oversee the activities of all the Regional Development Commissions. The Regional Development Commissions to be under the supervision of the new ministry are Niger Delta Development Commission, the Southeast Development Commission, the Northeast Development and the Northwest Development Commission. The immediate winding up of the Ministry of Sports Development and the transfer of its functions to the National Sports Commission in order to develop a vibrant sports economy. The merger of the Federal Ministry of Tourism and the Federal Ministry of Arts and Culture and Creative Economy to become Federal Ministry of Art, Culture, Tourism and the Creative Economy. The reassignment of 10 ministers to the new ministerial portfolios, the discharge of 5 ministers, the nomination of 7 new ministers for onward transmission to Senate for confirmation, the appointment of Shehu Diko as chairman of the National Sports Commission, the appointment of Sunday Akindari as special advisor to the President on public communication and orientation, working from the Ministry of Information and National Orientation. President Bola Tinubu has sworn in Abdullahi Usman Bello as the new chairman of the National Code of Conduct Bureau. The short ceremony was at the commencement of the Federal Executive Council meeting this Wednesday. The 50-year-old Abdullahi Bello from Gombe State is a fellow of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, UK, and a certified fraud examiner in the US. He is a PhD holder in anti-money laundering compliance from Northumbria University, United Kingdom. Dr. Bello, who has performed roles related to anti-corruption, anti-money laundering, financial intelligence analysis, forensic accounting, financial investigation, accounting and finance, promises to bring his experience to bear as he leads the Code of Conduct Bureau.
I assure Mr. President and the people of Nigeria, I will do my best to make sure that I deal with this huge task that is ahead of me. Like you mentioned, Code of Conduct Bureau is the foremost anti-corruption agency, the first anti-corruption agency in Nigeria, and I intend to deliver on the mandates of the Bureau. It's all about making sure that people, public servants, they behave with integrity, they avoid corruption, no conflict of interest. So that is the aim of it, integrity, accountability. That is what the duties that I need to deliver. And I promise Nigerians that, inshallah, I'm going to do my best to make sure that I deliver on the mandate of the Bureau. I always say that it's not about the individuals. Everybody can be corrupt in the world. It doesn't matter whether you are in the UK, whether in the US, everybody has a tendency to be corrupt. One of the most important things is the systems that we have in place to check it. So if we have the systems in Nigeria, we are going to be deal with this problem. So I assure you that we have the systems, we have the institutions. We only need to deliver on the mandate that is given to us, and then everything will be all right.
His inauguration followed nomination by the President and endorsement by the National Assembly. Earlier, I just told you there's been a major review that has been carried out in some federal ministries and with some realignment announced. Well, I gave you a brief. Here is the full package by our State House correspondent, Musbahuddin Wahab.
Was ordinarily expected to be a very long one, but it ended up being a very short meeting lasting barely 1 hour, and the duration actually did not determine the outcome of the meeting, because major decisions have been taken which will definitely touch some areas in the country. You have mentioned the realignment, but the major thing coming up now is that 5 ministers of the government of the Federation have been relieved of their assignments, and those ministers include Barrister Uju Kennedy Ohaneye, Minister of Women Affairs, and Lola Adejon, Minister of Tourism. Professor,
all these agencies, and in order to do that, today Mr. President and the FEC decided that all these commissions that have been created and signed by the National Assembly will be brought under the supervision of the SY Ministry of Nigerian Data, which is now redesignated as the Ministry of Regional Development. For our people over there in the Niger Delta region, I would like them to know that that has not removed anything from them. The NDDC is still very much in place, which is still under the Ministry of Regional Development, and all other such agencies are there. It's just a question of change of nomenclature.
The Ministry of Tourism has also been scrapped. Activities of that ministry are now being brought under the Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and Creative Economy. So that ministry will now be called Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and Creative Economy. Now, this is in addition to some other announcements that will follow later in the day.
all right, that now means that there's no fear at all for people of Niger Delta areas. Their agency, which is NDDC, still remains. And let's tell you, other ministers who have been reassigned include Uba Megeri Amadu, Minister of State Steel Development, is now Minister of State Regional Development. Dr. Doris Uzoka Nikte, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, is now Minister of State Finance. Senator John Owa Eno, Minister of Sports, which has been scrapped, is now Minister of State Trade and Investment, while Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, Minister of State Police Affairs, will now be Minister of Women Affairs. Now, Ayodele Olawande, Minister of State Youth Development, will now be Minister of Youth Development. And Dr. Salako Isaac Adekunle, who was Minister of State Environment, will now be Minister of Health. Minister of State Health, replacing Alausa in that capacity. These are just some of the decisions taken so far by the Federal Executive Council meeting.
Our State House correspondent there earlier in the day. The Minister of State for Defense, Dr. Bello Mohamed Matawali, briefed President Tinubu on the security situation in the Northwest following his 2 operational tours to Sokoto State. Dr. Matawali outlined the notable successes achieved by the Nigerian military in combating insecurity in the region, praising the professionalism and commitment of the armed forces. In his briefing, Matawali emphasized the crucial role the military continues to play in safeguarding the nation. He reaffirmed the government's determination to strengthen the Nigerian Air Force as part of a broader strategy to combat insecurity. The operational tour aimed to restore public confidence in the federal government's efforts
to restore peace and security across the Northwest. A statement issued by the Ministry of Defense highlighted the success of the TAR, noting his presence, and I quote, along with the Chief of Defense Staff and other military chiefs, led to the elimination of several key bandit leaders, including Halilu Buzu Sububu. This demonstrates the government's determination to flush out bandits and terrorists, end of quote. The minister urged residents of Sokoto, Zamfara, Katsina, and Kebbi states to remain vigilant and to cooperate with security forces to ensure the success of ongoing operations. Let's turn to other issues. Germany's Disease Control Center says a new, more infectious variant of the Mpox virus has been detected in Germany for the first time. Kolo Mohammed will tell us more.
The Disease Control Center in Germany said the person was infected abroad but did not give any further details, including where the case was being treated. The center only said the case is being closely monitored and adjusting its recommendations if necessary. The first case of the Mpox virus outside the African continent was confirmed in Sweden in mid-August, after which a case was reported in Thailand. The World Health Organization has declared that the increasing spread of Mpox in Africa is a global health emergency. So far, the vast majority of cases have been reported in Congo. Outbreaks of Mpox are currently affecting 18 out of 55 countries in Africa, and official reports say there have been 1,000 deaths as of last week.
It's important to remember that we are not dealing with one outbreak, but with several, caused by different strains or clades of the virus in different places.
The total number of suspected cases in Africa since the beginning of the year now stands at 42,438, with 8,113 confirmed as Mpox, according to Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Mpox mostly spreads through close contact with infected people, including through sex. Mpox belongs to the same family of viruses as smallpox, but causes milder symptoms like fever, chills, and body aches. People with more serious cases can develop lesions on the face, hands, chest, and the genitals. Kolo Muhammad, NTA News.
People displaced by violence in Abuja on the border between Sudan and South Sudan are struggling to cope with acute food shortage in South Sudan's Warab state. Aid agencies there say they lack the funds needed to address the worsening humanitarian crisis.
Jacqueline Ajak is a single mother who lost her husband, brother and sister in violence near Abyei at the South Sudan border 3 years ago. She is now living in a camp for internally displaced people in Mayenabun in Warab State. Jacqueline is a midwife but has no job now, yet she has to take care of several children orphaned by the conflict.
I urge those fighting to stop. You are our sons. You are displacing us, causing us pain, because you are dying by killing yourselves. And the government should intervene and stop the fighting.
Jacqueline Ajak's situation is similar to that faced by many here. Hundreds of people displaced by the conflict in Abyei have settled in Mayenabun. However, they say they haven't been given land to farm on. The displaced persons depend on food aid, which they say isn't enough to feed their families.
I usually go to work in people's gardens, especially those who are harvesting crops. After working, I'm given some produce from the farm, which I bring home, and that's what the family has been feeding on.
Intercommunal violence between two major communities in and around Abyei is majorly over who controls a piece of land that hosts a market located at the border between South Sudan and Sudan. The United Nations says South Sudan still has more than 1.5 million internally displaced persons due to conflict, insecurity, and the impact of climate change in parts of the country. It is calling on international donors to release more funds to help provide more humanitarian aid to the displaced. The UN mission in South Sudan says the government needs to focus on security sector reforms, including unification of former rival armed groups.
The unification remains important. We've seen unification take place without arms. We've seen the collection of arms. We don't know what's happened to the arms which have been collected in the disarmament campaign. So there has to be also an ability to reassure people that those arms are not being recycled.
Displaced people like Jacqueline Jack are hoping that security will be restored across the country so that they can return to their farms and once again depend on food from their gardens.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Thank you for staying with us. A federal high court in Abuja this Wednesday ordered the release of Tigran Gambarayan, the detained Binance Holdings Limited's executive from Kuje Correctional Center. Justice Emeka Nwete gave the order after the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Council at Dagba informed the court of the decision of the federal government to withdraw the charge against Gambarayan. Adagba, who held the brief of Ekele Iheanacho SAN, premised the decision on Gambarayan's deteriorating health and the diplomatic intervention. The EFCC had, on April 8, arraigned Binance Holdings Limited and Gambarayan before Justice Emeka Nwete of the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja. They were arraigned on a 5-count charge bordering on alleged tax evasion, currency speculation and money laundering to the tune of more than $34.4 million. He stated further that the government had reviewed the case and had taken cognizance that Gambarayan, a U.S. citizen, was a mere employer of Binance Holdings Limited, whose status in the matter has no impact. The lawyer equally told the court that the prosecution had taken into consideration some critical diplomatic and international meetings by the federal government, hence the need to discontinue the charge against the second defendant. Delivering the ruling, Justice Nwete granted Adagba's application and struck out the charge against the second and Gambarayan. He consequently adjourned the matter until November 22nd and November 25 for continuation of trial. To legislative matters, the Senate is of the view that tackling the problem or challenge of out-of-school children in Nigeria requires the convergence of stakeholders to come up with comprehensive solutions. It therefore adopted a resolution that a national summit on out-of-school children be convened for participation by the federal and sub-national. The Senate Committee on Basic Education and Secondary had in its findings, following an investigation, revealed lack of synergy of roadmaps between federal and state governments on the issue, and this, over the years, affected the attainment of the desired outcomes.
This is clearly the future of Nigeria, and I pray that through the National Summit, the resolutions will be implemented, issues will be well highlighted, and then all efforts will be made to bring this menace to an end so that our children can have a better future and not an adulthood in banditry, an adulthood in Boko Haram, an adulthood in fraud. I thank you all.
And the House of Representatives has directed its Committee on Power to investigate the frequent collapse of the national grid and provide a report within 3 weeks for legislative action. Adopting a motion of urgent public importance, lawmakers expressed worry over the development and the attendant effect on the economy. The House stressed that a stable power supply is essential for driving economic growth.
The House is regretting that this sad development is coming at a time when the Honorable Minister of Power has given assurances to the nation of a stable power sector during the increase in power tariff.
National Assembly correspondent Mitari Ekpen reports that the House passed for second reading a bill seeking an increase on Federation account revenue, accruing to states to 20% based on derivative principle.
On the federal allocation that comes to their states. A lot of natural resources in the north, in the south, same. There are a lot of natural resources. And Mr. Speaker, these resources have not been fully tapped for the benefit of the federal government and the state. When this law is passed, Mr. Speaker, it will encourage states to go into the full development of these natural resources to the benefit of the state, having in mind the revenue derivation they will have.
The bill has been referred to the House Committee on Constitution Review for further legislative action. In other news, the federal government says it has given 60 days ultimatum to its certificate of occupancy title owners to settle all outstanding ground rent and statutory charges, or else face revocation of their CFOs. The Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Ahmed Musa Dengiwa, gave the hint at the 29th Annual Conference of Directors of Lands in the Federal and State MDAs holding in Abuja.
The Federal Minister of Housing and Development is aware that several owners of the title properties have failed to pay ground rent and statutory charges to the ministry for several years now. This non-compliance has resulted in the loss of trillions of naira in revenue to the government. Under the renewed hope agenda of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, this cannot be tolerated, as this revenue is much needed to deliver the renewed hope agenda to Nigerians.
The issue of land acquisition has been problematic in Nigeria in the recent times. So, the 29th Council meeting of Federal and State Directors of Lands with the theme, Equitable Land Stewardship, Challenges of Land Administration and its Impact on Climate Change and Community Rights, is examining and finding solutions to land management and environmental impact in the country.
Basically, the challenges affecting land administration, lack of data, and not considering the vulnerable groups in the society. We are to change, through this conference, the narrative.
This week, we made a historic advancement by ensuring the establishment of a new regime of revised rates for crops and economic trees. This was done to provide fair, equitable, and provide adequate compensation to persons affected by government projects. This was the main focus of the 2024 National Technical Development Forum on Land Administration. Now, the project affected persons will receive adequate and equitable compensation for their crops and economic trees, reflecting the current economic realities.
The dignitaries hope for proper implementation of resolutions at such events to foster desired developmental goals. Papers presented include Equitable Land Stewardship, Challenges of Land Administration and its Impact on Climate Change and Community Rights. In Abuja, Francis Udojo, NTA News.
Inclusivity of persons with disabilities will continue to get the needed attention in the public and civil service. Permanent Secretary, Career Management Office of the head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Fatima Mahmood, gave the assurance when she monitored the mop-up Compro examination in Abuja.
The mop-up Compro Confirmation Examination 2024 is to give better opportunities to all visually impaired persons and all civil servants who missed the examination earlier. The examination, which took place at the Public Service Institute of Nigeria, has a total of 178 candidates participating. Permanent Secretary, Career Management Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Fatima Mahmood, said the government is meeting obligations and also creating an inclusive workplace where people feel welcome and comfortable and where they are seen, valued and appreciated for what they bring to the table.
So to make sure that everybody actually gets a chance, you provide level playing ground for everybody to make sure that everybody gets a chance to write and get his confirmation or promotion exams. So that's the effort that the head of service is making. But for them, they have also shared some key points with us where they are uncomfortable. We've taken note. They've made very good suggestions as to how they want to be treated, and we've taken that on board, and we'll do that in the next exams, God willing.
Fatima Mahmoud said the head of the civil service of the Federation is committed to ensuring that physically challenged public and civil servants enjoy a better working environment, make their mark, live their lives, and reach their potential. Hamad Jabani, NTA News.
In line with the renewed hope agenda of the present administration, the National Directorate of Employment has opened up its portal for various vocational training in addressing unemployment in the country. Director General of the NDE, Silas Ali Agara, made this known while inaugurating an 18-man implementation committee on skills acquisition. Says the program will provide training and equip the youths with valuable skills to enhance their proficiency in contributing to national development.
By the special grace of God, we should commence full training of all participants. I want to charge this committee not to let the youth of this country down, not to let our president down, and not to let the name that ND built over the time. We must ensure that that minimum numbers of 10 per electoral vote must be respected.
Between the ages of 18 to 35 years are expected to participate in the 3-month program, which will cut across the 36 states and the FCT. And that concludes the news. Thank you very much for your time. I'm Ruth Aguele. My sign language interpreter is Anna Olainka. Bye.